Hi, this is John Ondo from Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes. And before we get into today's episode, I just want to say thank you so much for listening. We're back after being gone for over 4.5 years. And I hope you get a chance to listen to episode 77, where we explain why we were gone for so long and that we're back for at least 3 more episodes. Angel and I are big supporters of entrepreneurship, and we love small businesses and faith-based businesses. And we just want to encourage you through our podcast each week. What's going to determine if we continue with more episodes will be the response. Subscribe to us on your platform. Send us an email at john@ondomedia.com. That would help us know you're listening and you want more episodes. So thank you so much, and let's get into today's episode.
On February 8th, 2021, John and Angel Ondo's podcast disappeared from the planet. All traces of their growing small business podcast vanished. What conspiracy took them down? Was there a government cover-up? Did they flee the country? Today, for the first time in 4 years and 7 months, the answers will be exposed.
This is the small business podcast that is sweeter than all the rest. Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes.
Hello and welcome to episode 77 of Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes. My name is John Ondo. Along with me is my beautiful wife, Angel.
Hi there.
And we would just like to say the rumors of our deaths were greatly exaggerated.
100%.
In case you're finding this podcast for the first time, I'll explain. This was a podcast that we had 76 episodes.
Yes, we did.
Until February 8th, 2021.
Dun, dun, dun.
The last episode we did was the Super Game episode immediately following the Super Bowl of 2021. I don't even remember who won that one.
Couldn't tell you.
It was a great episode. Matter of fact, still gets plays all the time. And we had no intention of stopping, no intention of quitting, no intention of having a 1,700-day break. But right after we finished that program, I had a sore throat. And they said, hey, John, you have COVID. You have to, quarantine. And I had to quarantine myself that week.
Yep.
And that began the process of why we haven't done a show for over 1,700 days or since February 8th, 2021.
Been a process.
So for those of you who maybe found us again and said, oh, yeah, I remember this podcast. Thank you so much. Because the website is gone. The email domain is gone. We shut that all down like 2 years ago. We kind of gave up. So we're going to explain what happened and why we suddenly ended the episodes. We didn't get divorced. We didn't kill each other, which would have been more likely, I suppose.
I don't think so.
No, we had some things happen. And so I've always felt for the past 1,700 days.
Yes, he has.
We needed to come back and at least finish the podcast. If we were not going to do it anymore, at least bookend it and say, hey, we're back and this is why and this is what happened. But for those of you who are joining us for the first time and wondering what the heck is this about, we are a small business podcast. And as I said, we said 76 episodes and we talked about everything from marketing and media strategies and cupcakes, because my beautiful wife, Angel, here not only works at a Fortune 500 company and she does impressive work with customer service and everything related to that, but she has a side hustle of doing cupcakes.
Yes.
angelscustomcupcakes.com.
Thank you. That domain is still in existence.
That domain is still in existence, although it almost went down.
It did almost go down, but thank you, COVID, for all of that.
And I am a film director, media consultant, and I have been very busy, and that's ondomedia.com. And we've been cranking along, but the podcast came to an abrupt end almost 5 years ago. We are going to do 3 episodes in this little post-season.
Apocalyptic.
Yeah, post-season of Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes. We kind of want to see if everybody's, at least they could feel like, hey, they're still alive and that's great. Maybe we'll come back and do some more, but we thought, let's just do 3 episodes. There's some interesting things going on. We'll talk about that at the end of the program, what we're going to do. But we kind of like to see if any of you are still out there. And if you
Are you there?
Are you still there? And you came and you found us. And this is a podcast that we do talk about small business. But today, we're going to talk a little bit about what happened to us and how COVID really screwed us over.
It certainly didn't help.
It did not. This was 2021. We had an administration change by this point. President Biden was in office. Not blaming him. That happened, and we had the Super Bowl, and boom, I got a sore throat from my daughter, who at that time I think was in 10th, 10th grade, maybe 9th grade. I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
She's in college now. That's how long it's been.
It's been a minute.
She's a freshman at The Ohio State University now, but back then I think she was in like 8th grade.
I don't know. I think it would have been sophomore.
I was told there'd be no math.
She was still playing volleyball.
Yeah.
And she had just come back from a tournament.
Yes.
And you picked her up from said tournament.
And she said, I have a sore throat.
And we all said, yeah, it's probably COVID.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
She tested negative.
She did.
And I went along my business. And you know what I do for a living requires me to talk. And we were doing this podcast. My throat got sore right after we did the little Super Bowl show. Went to some clinic down the road. And yeah, you got COVID. And I said, I don't really feel like I have COVID. I feel like I have a sore throat. And they said, well, that's COVID. I won't get into the politics of this whole thing.
But you pretty quickly didn't feel good at all.
I did have COVID.
You had COVID, but he was not well. I quarantined him to the basement.
Yes. Which
I would bring him food.
We had just remodeled the basement that we're recording in right now. We had just moved it around in anticipation of doing even more episodes of Marketing Media Cupcakes and other podcasts.
Other things.
Because we had other clients that we were bringing here.
But he was unwell.
So I was downstairs, sleeping on the couch in my lovely basement office.
For 5 days. And then on that Friday after he was diagnosed, I was making a cake for a friend. Tasted my frosting and said, why can't I taste it? And that started my journey into COVID hell.
So I got the COVID, and I really thought this is just a joke. I was doing Zoom calls. I was still getting things produced and stuff. But when I realized something was wrong was I was working for one of my clients, and I was editing a podcast actually for them. And I sent them the podcast. Did the edits, came back, and and he knew I had COVID. Says, John, the podcast you sent me didn't have any edits, any edits in it. Everything was still like, huh? And I checked, and literally somehow I felt like I had made edits in it, but I apparently hadn't.
He had not.
So that COVID haze that people had, I did have that.
Oh, you had a lot of the COVID.
And I slept a lot, but it lasted like 3 days. So for the first time in many, many weeks, we did not do an episode. No, that week.
Because he couldn't talk without coughing.
But I recovered. I think by the following week, I was back up and running, to a degree. But as you mentioned, Friday, Saturday of the week that I was diagnosed, you went in and they said,
I have COVID.
Yes.
I had no symptoms. I had no sore throat. I had no nothing.
Except for
I couldn't taste.
Which is
Suddenly
a small
I
problem.
couldn't taste.
So
and then I couldn't smell. And then I tried smelling my hand soap, couldn't smell. The next morning, because we were transitioning back into the office, I went to an urgent care and said, I need to know one way or the other. They said, assume you have it. I said, well, I need to know. And so they swabbed me and the whole 9 yards, and they're like, yes, you have COVID.
When we talk about Angel's taste, which with the exception of her taste in her current husband, is very solid. Questionable when it relates to her husband.
Yeah.
If you talk about dogs that can hear hypersonic things and so forth, she has like a hypersonic taste.
I did.
She's the kind of person that she would come to me and say, what does this taste like? And my answers are, it's sweet or it's salty.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
That's it.
I don't have a whole lot more on my little taster than that. But you can say it's got vanilla, it's got extract, it's got butter, it's got margarine.
It was my superpower
Yes.
to be able to take a taste of anything, food, cake, doesn't matter, and tell you exactly what was in it. And I lost all of that.
So for a painter, it would be like becoming colorblind. For a musician, it would be like losing your hearing. So for my beautiful wife, who's a master cupcake and cake creator, and you might say, well, can't you just duplicate, the recipes? Well, as you can explain to people like me who don't get it, it doesn't work like that, does it?
The custom part of Angel's Custom Cupcakes had to come to a halt because people asking for specific flavor combinations or a flavor profile, I didn't feel, I couldn't taste it. Then I had to rely on neighbors, which meant I had to rely on their palate to determine, was that what we were going for?
COVID had already impacted your small business because nobody was really in 2020 was buying anything. Graduations were canceled. You did I
did small things for friends.
Yep. You had some business, but it was way down.
It was way down.
On my side of the fence,
You were ramped up.
I was busy because everybody was super duper. We have to have videos. We have to do fundraising for nonprofits, which is one of the things I do. So, and the churches I am involved with doubled easily, and I was doing a lot of consulting and beginning to do a lot of work with other companies. So things were very busy for me. And on the flip side, you were kind of shut down and shutting down because you couldn't make cupcakes.
We were getting better, and then I had got vaccinated as per a requirement for where I work.
Well, it was not only for your work that, but my daughter was in the National Guard, still is in the National Guard, but this was her first year, and she was going to be graduating from boot camp in Oklahoma, and we had plans to fly there.
Correct.
And if you recall, way back in 2021, you had to have the vaccinations in order to fly on an airplane. I chose to get the Johnson & Johnson one-shot inoculations because nobody seemed to think they were any good, and I thought, that's the one I want. You went with whatever.
But it's Pfizer, it doesn't matter.
And then that's where the story takes another turn here that we did not expect.
3 weeks from the second vaccination booster, I made a cup of coffee in the morning and said, why does this smell weird? And then I tasted it. I'm like, why does this taste weird? And from that Monday morning forward, it got progressively worse.
And we had other friends that had this happen too. The rotten egg, sewage smell.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people can relate to that.
So again, you went from like no smell to starting to get it back.
Yep.
We had to do the vaccinations in order to get on airplanes and go back to the offices. Thank you so much. No political commentary here. And then after you had your vaccinations, it got rancid.
Everything got bad. Thanksgiving was probably one of the worst holidays of 2021 because everything smelled awful. Those of you who cook know the joyous smell of butter and onion and celery and, mirepoix in a pan, making your
I don't know what
stuffing.
that is, but it all smells wonderful to me, and I don't know what I'm doing.
And it smelled like absolute garbage.
Yeah.
And turkey smelled, everything smelled and tasted awful. And I literally, I call it a mild mental breakdown.
Let's talk about that, because we are a small business podcast, but the thing we talk about is your passion is what makes your business work.
Sure.
And that's my passion with storytelling and media production, and yours was with doing these cupcakes.
Yes.
And the joy people would see when you would make them a cool cake or a cupcake thing or a wedding cake was huge. And you love doing it. You love doing it, but you also love just the baking. Tell me a little bit about how this shut you down, because this is one of the reasons we did not do a podcast for the last 4 years.
It was definitely part of the reason I mentioned earlier. It was my superpower, and now it was gone. And so now what? I didn't want to rely on other people to taste things. I didn't want to rely on anything other than because I knew my own palate, and it just was really hard. So,
but you didn't even enjoy it. I could tell.
Oh, because I couldn't tell anything. I couldn't tell if something was in the oven, if it was baking, if it was burning. I couldn't do anything because it actually was unpleasant. And I went to an ENT and said, okay, is there something you can do for me? And that was in early 22, because I'd been told I just needed to give it time, blah, blah, blah. And he was basically like, at this time, there are no protocols to assist. What they diagnosed me with is something called parosmia. I had an altered sense of taste and smell. So things I used to love, the smell of an onion cooking was great. And now I still can barely take the smell of an onion. Certain things just were bad. And so I basically gave up baking altogether in all of 2022.
Well,
almost 23.
Not just baking. You didn't want to cook.
Oh, I didn't want to do anything. I couldn't. It was terrible.
And when I would go out and maybe barbecue, you couldn't take it.
I couldn't take the smell.
So I can't completely explain unless you've gone through this, to have somebody who's passionate about one thing and suddenly have it not only lose the passion, but it becomes almost like painful.
Oh, it was awful.
And so for these reasons, the podcast did not resume. And it's not that we sat around going, when's it going to get better? You tried the smelly, perfumey things that people were... I tried
every therapy.
Every snake oil thing that was on the internet, we tried.
All of it.
Because we had one or two friends who were struggling with a long term, but most people got it back in a month or two.
Yeah.
So let me just kind of do something we don't do in storytelling. I'm going to jump ahead to today, 2025. Is your smell back?
Not really. I think we're at about, people give people a percentage. I'd say 70%. And what I mean by that is I can smell certain things, but I can't, for example, I can't really smell gasoline.
Yes.
I can't smell bleach.
And that was something that happened to me. When I had COVID, gasoline smelled peppery to me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be clear or unclear about the fact we do not know and are not accusing the vaccines of doing this. However, there is some evidence in some people that the vaccines did do things that messed up smell or other things.
As it was explained to me when I said, why now, when I was getting better, their comment was similar to what happens to people who have chickenpox, and they had chickenpox as a child, and then suddenly they get shingles. That was me.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they believe, and that's what the ENT and so did my physician said, the vaccine created or caused a waking up, if you will, of the dormant virus that was still within my body. And it just started the whole COVID process to a degree over again, but in a different variation.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, we know that this is a thing. Some people experience it. I mean, mine was just taste and smell. I didn't have brain fog. I don't have long COVID. Yeah. I don't have all these other horrible things that people are still dealing with today. But my taste, there are certain things that came back first. I do believe God is real and good because I can taste chocolate.
Yay.
So praise his holy name on that one. I can taste vanilla, but there are things like cream cheese, sour cream, taste rancid still to this day. I basically resumed my baking, but what I did was backed off.
And that was just in like 20...
It was end of 20... Well, it was beginning of 24. Yeah, it was the beginning of 24.
So just a little over a year. So you were dormant for about 2 years.
Yes. I had I did special orders, and the requirement was I would do vanilla only.
Yeah.
That was the only thing I would do because that was a tried and true recipe. And I was like, I know exactly how to make it. And vanilla was a flavor that was coming back, but the smells finally subsided from things smelling rancid.
A good day for me is when we go somewhere and I'll say, oh, do you smell that? And she says, I smell something.
Yeah, something. What it is, I don't know.
Many times the typical reaction for the past 3-4 years has been either I don't smell it or that smells horrible. What is it? And I'm like, oh, that's cinnamon or something. Yeah.
It was tough.
So from a small business perspective, you've started the business back up. Your passion for it hasn't left you, but at least your disdain because of the smell you've worked through that.
I've gotten to the point where I do what I want to do versus what I have to do. I've changed my model, which was I never said no to anybody for about anything.
Yes.
And
thank you for doing that. By the way.
That was making him crazy, but it was more making me crazy. And I had a very good, I did have a therapist who said, what is it about this that you do enjoy? What is it that you can find? Is it the creativity? Is it the baking? Is it I said, at the end of the day, it's the decorating that I enjoy the most. He's like, then can you find something else? So I finally decided if decorating is what I enjoy, then let the baking be what it is. You can't do custom. You'll just tell people can't do custom flavors. These are the flavors I offer. And then the rest of it is what I can find joy in, which is the decorating and the creating versus the other stuff. So it has come back in the sense of a business perspective. I do still enjoy doing it for people. But I still miss the fact that I can't smell my cake if it's burning in the oven, and I can't, smell something, fresh cut grass or rain or things that I know exactly how it should smell.
But we're believing it's going to come back. We are.
John is my believer. I'm a realist. It's been so long.
It's always hard for the person going through it to say, yeah, it's going to. So she has been with me with different things, the believer on my stuff. And that's why we are still here. And our rumors of our death have been greatly exaggerated. That's why the podcast came to an abrupt end on the week of February 8th, 2021, because we got COVID and it kicked us in the head pretty bad.
Yes.
And so tell me a little bit more about what happened with your model, because before Angel's Custom Cupcakes, and you would have people who say, I would like a glider
Yes, and I did
cake.
that.
And you would do that, and I'd go, why are you doing that?
And I'd say, because I want to try.
You kind of finally realized this isn't working, and you were putting in many, many more hours. Our good friend Terry Dismore
Yes.
was very influential, helping you with kind of looking at the numbers.
Correct.
So tell me about the model change with your Angel's Custom Cupcakes 2.0.
It essentially is, I do cupcakes and I do standard cake, meaning I will do a cake with a design, but I am not creating a cake that looks like this or that, a cake that is in the shape of a car or a purse or something crazy.
As I refer to it, the Chipotle mindset. You've got 3 meats, and then you got the things, you got 3 choices here, and then by the end, you have a 73 combinations you can make, but basically it's 3 choices at a time or 5 choices.
It's here are my flavors, here are the frostings. Do you want something? And if you have a cake with a design, then I will look at it and determine, is that something I'm able to do or interested in doing?
Recently, you had a cake actually for a family member that was kind enough to send us some business. And it was a baby shower.
Oh, it was a sprinkle. For those of you, instead of a shower, it's a sprinkle. That's new. I just learned about what a sprinkle was as well.
But it was a little...
it was called Little Cuties was the theme.
So little oranges on it. So that's a custom. You had a standard flavor, and then you had the little cuties that you would cut out of vinyl or whatever it is you make stuff
fondant.
Thank you. And that's it. And it was beautiful, and they loved it.
Choose what you're good at, choose what you enjoy, and stay in it, and business will find you. And so I decided I didn't have to say yes to everything. I didn't have to accept, a mid product because I wanted to say yes. My cupcake business does not make our mortgage payment. It is more of a joy that I have. And I'm trying to find that joy again, but the only way to have that is on my terms. And my terms are, send me what you want, and if I can do it and I'm available, I will. And if it's something that's outside of my wheelhouse, I'm going to tell them, no, I'm sorry, and you'll need to find someone else.
I think if there's any lesson from the rumors of our death with Great Exaggerated, is we've learned a couple of different lessons. And similarly on my side, my business has gotten really busy. And I, as anybody who knows me, if you need 10 yards, I will go 20. Because I work with amazing people. I work with mainly all nonprofits. We have a lot of new clients now, and they're all great, and they're doing amazing work. So I typically always push a little bit extra for all of them because they're all doing, the Lord's work.
For all of them all the time.
But I've gotten to the point where I've realized, especially now that my second child has graduated from high school, now attending the Ohio State University, and I've got one left.
And the first one graduated.
Yes, the other one graduated with her bachelor's degree from the Bearcats of Cincinnati.
Yes.
And is now a second lieutenant in the National Guard.
Yes, she commissioned as well.
We call her Lieutenant Laney now.
Yes.
I've got one child left in high school, and I'm like, what has happened?
Mm-hmm.
And my lesson to that on my side of the fence has been I've told a couple clients I've got to roll back a little bit. I only have less than 12 months with my son before he goes to college. And I'm not saying I'm going to be like sitting in the corner crying when he's gone. I just know this period of time, this season's going to be over. And I do not want to sit back and say, why was I working 40 hours on a project that I should have probably said no and gave it to somebody else?
Yep.
When I could have been spending it with him.
Exactly.
Or looking at colleges or just watching him and laughing because he's funny.
Yes.
I can't say this enough, and I know that doesn't pay the bills for everyone, and we're very blessed to be able to do what we do. If you have a small side hustle, be passionate about it, but don't let it take over your life. Don't let it take over your marriage. Don't let it take over your family. And that's, again, one of the reasons Marketing Media Cupcakes has been gone since February 8th, 2021, is that we were going through a little bit of a crisis. And then by the time we got back up and kind of running, we've been doing some other great things. And if you're familiar with the podcast, Tell Us a Good Story with Steph and Kevin Mason, they do their video podcast here in the studio, and we've loved working with them. And they're amazing folks.
Awesome.
And we've been working on their podcast. And finally I said, you know what? What happened to our podcast?
And I was like, oh, really?
Yeah. Angel's not quite as motivated for the podcast as I am, but I really think she has an amazing story. And I think sharing what you shared today is going to connect with a lot of people who still are dealing with COVID years later. And we just want to encourage you, don't give up on your vision. Don't give up on your business. You may have to readjust it. You may have to reboot it. And so we have come back 1,700 days later to try to tell you what happened. And then we're going to do 2 more episodes after this, and then we're going to see what happens. I'm not going to sit back and say we're not going to do any more, but we wanted to see how many of our friends came back and found the podcast, because the website's gone and everything's gone. We're not just on ondomedia.com. We're going to do 2 more podcasts. Next week, our new podcast, we are going to talk about, did you know that Cracker Barrel changed their logo? Had you heard that by chance?
This is a hot topic for him, so I know everybody's probably going to be sick of it by the time we drop it.
We need to talk about Cracker Barrel. And even though we're a little behind the time, I've spent the last month really organizing my thoughts on this Cracker Barrel debacle and why it happened and how we as small business people or large business people need to think about things a little better. So our next show will be about Cracker Barrel.
Get excited.
Yeah, get excited, and we'll talk about marketing and rebranding and what to do and what not to do. And then the third of our postseason episodes, we are going to discuss social media and AI. I don't know if you're familiar with the term AI.
I am so familiar.
I'm ready to cancel all of my social media accounts. That's what I feel like. AI is so ruining social media. I don't even want to see it anymore. I looked at her like, can we retire? Can we just shut it all down and go to live with the Amish?
Yeah.
I'm over it. But we're going to talk about AI. Could this be the long-awaited death of social media is going to be caused by AI? I don't think so, but we're going to talk about that on the third of our episodes coming up here. So again, this is the key. If you like what you heard or you missed us, you can drop us a line. We have a cool little drop us a line thing if you're listening to us on Buzzsprout, that you can actually send us a text line on that. Otherwise, my email address is john@ondomedia.com. Find us on all the podcast formats. Let us know that you like the show and that you found us again and you're glad, and tell Angel thanks for sharing your story. Or if you've gone through some things like Angel did, write us a note. I've got the link in the thing and the bleep boop and so forth, and we'll go from there. So again, thank you for joining us. We're not dead, and we'll be back next week with actually a new episode. It's number 78 on marketing, media, and cupcakes.
Connect with John and Angel via Facebook and Instagram and let us know your thoughts. Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes is a production of Ondo Media.